All right, everyone, thank you so much for coming. My name is Jennifer Klein. I'm a Public Information Officer with Great Basin Team 1. I'll be your facilitator this evening for the public meeting. We have a very tight agenda. We want to keep this to an hour, so just a couple of housekeeping things. You guys all received and a fire update. On the back is on the map as well. So you guys can kind of follow along when we do our operational briefing, but there's the update, that's the current information as of this morning, and then the map as well. Please put all cell phones on vibrate. I know information, it's good to get phone calls, but if we could respect the speakers and our time and the information we're sharing, that'd be great, so if we could do that. We have multiple speakers talking about multiple items. We're going to keep all questions to the end. At the very end, we'll have about 15 minutes of Q&A questions that you can address the folks, but let them speak, let them tell the story, and then at the very end, we'll address any question you guys have. Also, the information that we have, the Great Basin Incident Management Team, as well as the Rocky Mountain Incident Management Team, got on the fire the last couple days, so the situational awareness that we have has been the last couple days. So those questions that we have will kind of keep to that as well. But just letting you guys know that we're going to give you the situational update, some tactical type information. So that's information that we know right offhand. All right, with that, Marty Adel, the incident commander with Great Basin Team 1, is going to provide you the current situation.
Thank you and good evening. First and foremost, thank you for coming. We understand, we recognize what this situation is doing to this community, doing to you as an individual basis, and so we appreciate you coming, telling us your concerns so we can address them. So thank you very much. First and foremost, on the briefing that you got this morning, some of us handed out to you. You'll notice on the very bottom it says special interest residents of Nephi and Provo are asking to conserve the natural gas. That has been rectified. We are not doing that any longer. With the way the fire is and the way the system's set up as far as your natural gas, that is no longer an issue. I don't believe it ever was. We're just trying to be on the conservative side. So as was stated, I'm Marty Adel, the incident commander of Great Basin Team 1. This is a Type 1 incident, and Type 1 through Type 5 are always graduated for the fires, and they depend on complexity. They're determined on what forces are needed and the situation that dictates that situation. For this particular fire, we came in, and I say that as the team came in, and we were charged with both fires to represent, manage, and fully suppress them. On the time that we got our order to come, day before yesterday, obviously these fires are a little bit smaller, and that afternoon the Bald Fire really started picking up. The Pole Creek fire had already started expanding at a great pace, and it was figured by the local agencies between the Forest Service, Utah State, and other agencies that because of the complexity, because of the structures, the communities threatened, the infrastructure, we were going to need 2 IC1 teams. With that, I'd like to introduce Todd Caciotta. Todd, if you'd stand up, please. Todd and I have similar qualifications, our teams have similar qualifications, and to adequately manage this fire, we are going to split the fires. Caciotta's team is going to take Bald Mountain. He will take charge of that tomorrow morning at 0600, 6 o'clock a.m. The Great Basin Team 1 will remain in control of Pole Creek in its entirety. Now, as this fire draws on, next couple days we're expected, as Evan's quote will dictate or will explain to you what the winds are going to be doing, what the weather's going to be doing, and also what the fire has been doing for the past couple days. As this fire, we start to get a handle on it, and it starts to reduce in complexity. At that time, Todd's team and my team will figure out what we need to do to manage both fires and then downsize to make sure that we're doing everything adequate for the situation. With a fire or incident of this size and this nature, some of you have probably heard of our Cooperators meeting. Has anybody been to those? Yep, there's a couple. Fantastic. The Cooperator meetings, I just want to explain what they are and what the purpose is. That is a information transfer as well as a cooperator just kind of meeting and conducting a planning. So every cooperator, every utility, every agency, anybody that has a vested interest in that piece of ground. Let me give you some examples. The gas companies, the electric companies, the cattlemen up in those areas, they all come together, they let us know their concerns so we can address them. So for instance, we've got a very large pressurized natural gas line that goes through the fire perimeter. And we need to speak to those individuals to know what we can do about them. We've got an idea. I work out of the Elko district in Nevada, and we deal with a lot of similar situations. But to have Damien Energy come in and tell us what we can do, where we can put our dozers, what we need to look out for, and concerns that they have, we can not only adequately fight this fire, but prevent any kind of damage to infrastructure, whether it be natural gas or other utilities. So at this time, I'd like to bring up Deputy IC Evans Quo. He will give us an overview of what the fire is doing, and then we'll go from there. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. My name is Evans Quo, the Deputy Incident Commander for Great Basin Team 5. Before I begin, I just want to make sure, can everybody in the back hear me fine? If I hold the microphone about here? You guys, okay, good. So as you all know, since about Wednesday, the wind's been pretty fierce in this area. And it's what the National Weather Service calls a red flag warning for high winds. Winds, as you probably also know, have a tendency to really push fires along and make things very challenging for firefighters to work on containing fires. So over the course of since Wednesday afternoonish, both the Bald Mountain Fire has pushed to the northeast, being driven by southwest winds, as did the Pole Creek Fire. Pole Creek did jump Highway 89 a couple days ago, and then of course it started burning up in this direction up towards Highway 6. Highway 6 is up in here. In case some of you are wondering where you're looking at, the red lines identify the perimeter of the fire. We use infrared aircraft at night to gather it, so this intelligence is accurate as of last night. The fire has grown to some extent over the course of today, and I'll try to describe for you where that's increased in size. The yellow shades are areas of scattered heat, but these dark red areas are areas of intense heat. And these individual red dots are just isolated heat pockets, logs that are still smoldering, stump holes, what have you. But this fire, it's being right outside your back door. I'm sure many of you have recreated in the mountains outside of here, but it's very rugged terrain, very challenging for us. And with the wind conditions that we've been having for the last, since Wednesday, and are expecting to continue into early this coming weeks, Monday timeframe is making it very challenging for us. Our ability to get in close and work the fire, especially up at the north end of the fire where all the communities are, has been, it's very limited. Ernie, can you kind of back out a little bit more and show more of the surrounding area just to get everybody oriented? So I-15 corridor is up in here with Santaquin, Payson, Salem, where we are. The subdivisions of Elk, or the communities of Elk Ridge, and then what's not showing on the map, but it would if we zoomed in a little bit more, is Woodland Hills. Springville, of course, and then you got Highway 6 running out this way, Highway 89. The little community of Birdseye is here, Indianola is about there. So hopefully that kind of gives you a rough idea of where this fire has been burning. So as I mentioned before, the weather conditions have been very challenging and very adverse. I want to be brutally honest with you folks. It's giving us a lot of concerns, and we're working on trying to establish some contingency actions that we can do, even though we got these high winds, in the event that the fire pushes north or continues to push north into the communities, or tries to jump the highway again up in here. Starting yesterday, the winds weren't all that bad, so we were able to get a lot of our aircraft up, and you may have seen some of our large air tankers, the large multi-engine jets flying that drop retardant. We were able to do some more of that today to try to secure some of the key areas that we're needing to secure. That pretty much ended about early afternoon when the winds picked up and got above the threshold. And just walking across the parking lot, like all of you folks did, my hat almost blew off. So that's kind of an indicator there. We have been able to continue work in helicopters, so we're still able to hang on to what we've got up in there. And on current status, we probably have somewhere about 550, maybe close to 600 firefighters, with probably about equal amount en route to us as we speak. So we are gearing up to respond to what this fire has been doing. It just takes a little while. So one of the things I wanted to do is explain to you what we're planning on doing with this fire and how we plan on containing it to keep it from coming into the communities. Our primary objective and our primary priority is to protect the communities from about, well, all along I-15 and all along this fire, but all the way from Santa Quinn up through Payson, Elk Ridge, Woodland Hills, down into Thistle, Birdseye, even along the I-6 corridor, Highway 6 corridor for the scattered homes, and then all the way down to Indianola. So there's a lot of residential homes in that area. We've also got a lot of infrastructure such as railroads, high-tension KV lines, power lines, gas lines that Marty referred to that we're trying to not impact or keep the fire from impacting those areas as well. As I mentioned with the wind, we're challenged. So for us, our ability to go up on the mountain and get close to the fire, especially with the wind on the adverse side, our likelihood is we would not be successful. We could try, we could put people up there, but most likely the fire would go right over the top of our lines and we would not be able to contain it. We would most also likely put a lot of firefighters at risk. Most of those firefighters they all have families. And I'm sure some of them are probably related to people in this audience. So we're very concerned with the lives of our responders and don't want to take on any necessary risks that we don't have to put them into. At the same time, we also want to be here for you folks to make sure the fire doesn't get up in there. Ernie, can you zoom in on the north of Bald Mountain? So just wanted to get in a little bit closer and describe some of the actions we're taking to keep the fire. That's good, Ernie. Back out a little bit. So Payson Canyon is over here, I believe. Yes, Payson Canyon, Elk Ridge, Woodland Hills. So right now we have a dozer line somewhere coming out of Payson Canyon, working its way around, basically at the toe of the slope, around at the base of the subdivisions, or behind the subdivisions, right at the toe of the slope. And that dozer line extends all the way up into somewhere about in here. What that is intended to do is give us some sort of control line that we could use to burn off of in the event that the fire continued to work its way down the hill towards those two communities. I know you can see a lot of that from town. It looks pretty close. Honestly, frankly, it is pretty close. It's getting within about maybe half mile. Today with the winds, for some odd reason, we think it's probably because it's been a little bit sheltered. We're not getting a whole lot of fire activity in there. It's still burning, it's still active, but it's not running very sustained. So it's still giving us some time. That being said, we have firefighters deployed in this area, ready to burn out that dozer line if and when it becomes necessary. We also have numerous engine crews and engine companies scattered around, pre-positioned at various locations, ready to respond to any spot fires that get tossed out of the main fire that land in among the homes. So this is probably our highest priority right now, but just because the proximity of the fire to the residences. Ernie, can you zoom out a little bit more? So moving across over into the north end of the Pole Creek fire. We're still somewhat high up on the hill. This area is somewhat active with the winds because it's just more exposed up at that elevation on the ridgetop. We expect it to continue to fill in. I don't know if you can tell or if any of you have recreated in this area, but this is some very steep, rugged terrain. As I mentioned earlier, our ability to be effective in there, be successful and not get people hurt, we're challenged by stuff like this. So we're looking at ways we can do the similar situation like we did with putting in a control line on favorable ground that we could use to burn out to keep the fire from moving forward. In the event that the fire forces our hand, we've been starting to identify Spanish Fork drainage itself as a potential control line to keep the fire from making a hard push to the north and going across. Similarly, up in this country, on the other side of, so this is Thistle here, Highway 6, hey, no worries, Ernie. Where are we? Ladies and gentlemen, tray tables in the upright position and seat backs. Okay. All right, so this is the junction of Highway 89 and 6, with the community of Thistle, I guess you call it. Our fire burned this way. How many of you remember the Coal Hollow fire from, okay. Coal Hollow fire is right in here. Pole Creek in places bumped into, it burned up against until it got into the Coal Hollow fire, and Coal Hollow fire stopped it right there at that location. So we're trying to take advantage of that additional barrier right there to keep the fire from going to the east. With the winds that were coming out of the south, pushing to the north, it pushed this little piece of finger of fire down into the highway corridor and basically hit our trigger points for we needed to take action to keep it from jumping to Highway 6. So a couple, 3 hours ago, our fire crews initiated a firing operation where they started deliberately putting fire on the ground in between, and they're not actually going out the highway. They're using, I believe it's called Soldier Creek, and there's also some 2-track roads in the bottom. They're burning off of that as a control line, and their plan is to continue burning back towards the 89 junction. When they get to that turn, they're gonna probably turn the corner and keep burning to the south at some point where they can tie it in for the evening. Ladies and gentlemen, when we had to pull the trigger on that burnout, we had to close Highway 6, and Highway 6 will probably remain closed through the evening until the burnout calms down and we can safely get people back in there. So that's kind of what we're looking at doing on that one side, and then also continue to doing that same activity if and when this fire does make it farther to the north and forces our hand to burn out. This is all of our planned actions during this high wind period. If we can make it through the next few days, get out of the high winds, we think that we'll have some opportunities to probably take the fight a little bit closer to the fire. But in the event that the fire continues moving during this high wind period and keeps pushing us, this is probably where we're looking to stop this fire using similar tactics that we're using over in here. With that, I think I might have been running a little long on my time. I think we can help answer some more questions about this fire as we go along towards the Q&A, but we probably ought to move on. So, thank you.
Alrighty, everyone. Next, we're going to have some questions or comments from our cooperators and agency administrators. First, we have Brian Trick, Wasatch Cache Area Manager with the Department of Natural Resources.
Well, Wasatch Cache was close. I'm the Wasatch Front Area Manager. You're okay. No, you're good for the state of Utah. An area manager, what I do is I am in charge of management of the state and private land in a 5-county area of the Wasatch Front, Utah County being one of those counties. What I do on the fire as an agency rep or an agency administrator is we help facilitate decision-making during the fire that might affect the state and private land. So that's my role. Tonight, really, I would like to just thank everybody. I'll start with the governor. We had a briefing today with him, as well as the National Guard. Numerous elected officials have shown up to our cooperator meetings. Many of them are here tonight. Again, I would like to thank all of the local resources that have come out, helped us with that. Many of them, yes. I can ballpark it for you, but I know we have over 40 cooperating entities or fire departments from my area alone that have come and participated. Along those lines too, I would like to thank all of you, the tremendous outpouring of support. ICP is full of Gatorade, it is full of diapers, underwear. I don't think we're there yet. But again, thank you so much, and it's no surprise to me that you have all come together and done that, and the deliveries don't stop. On that, though, I do have to say that our chief concern is public and firefighter safety. So if your local officials have told you to evacuate, if they do tell you to evacuate, please do listen to them. Please do stay out of the evacuation zone until that's lifted. And again, I know that curiosity is high, and it's just right there, but do try and stay out of the way. That's for your safety as well as the safety of the firefighters on the line. And again, we are still in fire season, and we continue to have human-caused starts. In fact, today alone, I've had 2 in my area as well. So we're dealing with this, and then we're now dealing with 2 more. So be smart when it comes to fire and think prevention. With that, though, I'd like to give my support, my full support for the 2 teams that are going to take over this fire, one of which worked with very closely on the Coal Hollow fire. They're back. That's Todd Caciotta's team. And I have full confidence in Marty Adell's team. We have been here from the beginning. We're here now, and we'll be here through it, and we'll be here after. So thank you.
All right, next we have Dave Whittakin, Forest Supervisor of the Umina Wasatch Cache National Forest. Dave.
Thank you. We probably have the most misspelled, most difficult forest to pronounce in the agency. So I would also like to thank the teams for being here and the firefighters, and in particular, our local firefighters, the ones from the forest. The ones from the forest, the ones from the various agencies around here, the locals, the volunteer firefighters, everybody has been engaged in some way, shape, or form in this whole event. And the Forest Service firefighters have been engaged in both of these fires since they were discovered and have been engaged in this. We have been working on these fires since we found them. Bald Mountain Fire, which was in the wilderness, there's been some talk that we simply don't fight fires in the wilderness. We do. And when that one was discovered, the day before, it had rained 2 inches on that. We determined as we looked at that fire, it was a single tree, and it had rained heavily, and it was in August, and one would normally expect in a fire season for that to be a good decision. We put it in monitoring, and we did look at that. It's a difficult area. The Pole Creek fire, we also, we had people in the area the whole time. We were building line on that fire, we were working on that fire, and we evaluate a lot of things when we do that. We're using a lot of the same techniques that the team is using to fight this fire now, only on a local, smaller level. We're looking at the right location, we're taking into account weather, predicted weather, fuel conditions, firefighter safety, and we're often reminded about that. In particular, I have a black band on my badge. That's because in Utah, we lost a firefighter in California fighting a fire. That's something that I always take into account, because I don't want to lose a firefighter on any kind of a fire if we can help it. We're using the same techniques on this that we have used throughout the entire summer. And many of you probably are unaware of all the fires that our firefighters, and by our, I mean BLM, Forest Service, state, and local folks, have been fighting all summer long and have been entirely successful on. We built line around fires. We burnt out around fires. We have successfully put those fires out in a variety of different ways. We've done all of that. We were doing the exact same thing on Pole Creek. And we had people on the ground building line, trying to figure out the best location to take that on, and trying to take the fire on our terms, which is what we try to do, until this fire decided it was going to go after us on its terms. We had firefighters who were there when this fire made its initial run and jumped those lines, and they had to get out of there for safety reasons when it moved. So the fire became very aggressive and moved out into some other drainages, and our folks were there, and they were there from that point on. They've only been relieved of firefighting duties now that the team has arrived. Some of those folks were working 16-hour days, staying on that thing. I probably couldn't have got them off the fire if I'd have tried to. So I understand there's going to be a lot of questions, and we will have question and answer period, and I will be here until everybody is gone. I could be one of the last people to leave to talk about those things, to answer those questions, to engage with folks. But I thank you. I thank you for being here, and certainly I thank the team and the firefighters who have arrived to take care of this.
Thank you, Dave. Next, we have Mike Smith, Sheriff, Utah County.
Good evening. Just want to take a few minutes to talk about some of the things that we've been doing on a county level, and really to assure you that as far as Utah County government goes, Utah County Sheriff's Office, that we will be here for you, that our resources will be here for you, that we're working closely with the teams that are in place to make sure we're doing everything we can to help you in these situations. We've had an outpouring of support from agencies across the valley, from Lehigh all the way to South County, offering officers to help us, and we are very grateful that we live in such an amazing county where help isn't a big problem. We are continuing to do escorts into the neighborhoods. I know there is frustration with this effort. I know, well, I can only imagine how you feel to have your homes up in these areas. We're trying to get all the resources in place that we possibly can to make sure we can get you up into your homes as safety allows. We brought in extra officers today. We've increased our volunteers. Safety is our #1 concern. We want to help you do that, and we'll continue to do that as the conditions allow. We will shut down those efforts, typically about dark, or at the very latest 10 o'clock, we'll shut down those efforts, and we will keep our officers in those communities to make sure that your homes are safe and that we're protecting your property for you. Thank you. We've been working very closely with the city officials in the affected cities in Woodland Hills and Elk Ridge. In all of our affected areas, we're working closely to make sure that we're fulfilling the needs of those cities and that their questions are being answered and that the proper information is going out to you as citizens, and we'll continue to do that. Today, we've been working. We were stretched today. We called out to some agencies and got more officers in. We had deputies that went up Payson Canyon with some of our cattlemen to help get cattle off the hill. So we're trying to get out there and cover all those bases and make sure we can help everywhere we can. I want to talk just a minute about rumors. I would encourage you to go to the proper sources for information. A lot of rumors are out there that gets everybody panicked and causes some issues for your officials to have to track down and say, no, that's not true. We're trying to keep the most up-to-date and current information on our Facebook feeds through your cities, through the Utah County Sheriff's Office, and we will address those rumors. For instance, one of the rumors that came out today was that we had requested people to leave their houses unlocked and their garage doors open. That is absolutely not true. Not true. Please don't do that. I just want to add to my support and my faith in the teams that are on the ground to help us. These firemen that are here, these teams that are here and more are coming, are the best in the nation. I have they have my support and my trust and my faith in them that the efforts that they are doing are in our best interest, and they will do everything in their power to keep us safe and to keep our property safe. I would ask you to be patient, to work with us, to work with them, and let's work through this issue together like the people in Utah County know how to do. Thank you.
All right, if the folks up there could make all 3 mics live, that'd be great. If the speakers would come back up on stage, we're going to have the Q&A right now. So we are going to set about 15 minutes for that. I know there's a lot of people in here and every one of you have a question, but because we've at capacity and we want to hold a second meeting, we're going to hold it to 15 minutes. We have the speakers and folks here to answer your questions, but like we mentioned before, our team got here on the 13th, so anything prior to that, that's definitely a local agency administrator's question and answer, and David mentioned he'll be here afterwards until the last person leaves, so if we could hold those questions before that, that would be great. So we want to just definitely concentrate on the fire situation now. So we have Jason Curry and Mary. We're going to try to hit everybody as we can, but they have the mics. And also we're streaming this live, so when you speak into it, if you could speak loud, that would be great. We're going to try to jump around and get to everybody, but from here on out, we'll just kind of go get as many as you can. So if you guys go ahead and get those started with questions.
Me first?
Go ahead.
Thank you. Could you tell us the basics of firefighting? You mentioned about, I think you're burning strips. In some cases, you're bulldozing something down. We don't understand what that is. Also, we hear bits and pieces about what the air is done from the air, and that's support and not the fundamental thing, and then mainly it has to be people on the ground. Can you tell us about that? Just some basics for us.
Sure, that's a great question. Could you zoom in maybe over that thistle area at all? All right, so what we're doing, oh, okay, that's good. So what we're doing when we, so try this again. So what we're doing when we say burning out or stripping or something like that, for instance, along the Highway 6, we're in Thistle, the 98 and 6 area, or in the Elk Ridge woodland area, what we will do is we will have some type of barrier, whether it's hand line, whether it is dozer line, all the way down to mineral soil, whether it's a 2-track road, we can go in there at that time and then light off towards the fire. That barrier will stop the progression towards or in the advance of it and back burn towards the fire. So when we're talking about the Elk Ridge area, the woodlands, as Evans was talking about, as the hill started to flatten out a little bit, because that stuff is incredibly steep, where we can get a dozer in there, we'll put a dozer line across the base of that to separate the fire from the structures. And at that point, once that is done, then we'll have the crews come in behind it, whether it's engine crews, hotshot crews, type 2 crews, just a level of experience. They'll go in there, reduce the fuel load between the line, the dozer line or the hand line, and the structures. They'll reduce that fuel load, knock down, limb up trees, knock down some brush, and then at that time, as the fire progresses, and what we don't want to do is light off immediately and just send a bunch of fire up. What we'd like to do is, as that fire comes at us, light it off in a controlled, monitored manner. This way, reducing the effect of the fire just coming down the hill really hard at that line. Does that answer your question, sir?
Yes, and about the air and the people on the ground.
Yep. So we have really a 2-tier attack on any one fire that we suppress. We have ground resources and air resources. I mean, we've got a lot of other entities, dispatch and management and everything else I won't get into. But when it comes to fire, what we're trying to do consistently, especially on this one, is create a barrier so we can stop the fire's progression. Air support is just that. is supportive. So when we can come in, especially when the winds are starting to die down a little bit, what we'll do is we'll put a line in, dozer line, and then clear out the fuel behind it, and then maybe come in behind that or right on top of that and put in retardant drops, so to bolster that. Otherwise, we also do a lot of stuff. You'll see yesterday was a prime example, or early this morning, as that fire is progressively down the hill, we don't want it to, once again, to get a full head of steam and hit our line. So what we'll do is we'll take the heavy helicopters, the Sikorskis, the larger airships that are able to take 2,000 to 3,000 gallons, and pinpoint those drops on those incredibly hot areas that just quell that fire a little bit. That will not, because of our fuel, moistures are so low, and everything across there, the grasses, the brush, the timber, are so tinder dry, those will only temporarily slow that. But that does give us a little bit of time if they hit it, maybe hit it again, and have our folks continue that line to give us that barrier. Okay.
So grateful for everything you're doing. I speak for the residents of Cover Bridge Canyon, kind of the redheaded child in this. We've been evacuated for some time. I'd love to know where we kind of are in that situation. We have no communication really on what's happening up there. Thanks.
You bet. Good question. Everybody get that question? How long are we going to keep these evacuations in place?
Not that. What's happening up Cover Bridge Canyon?
Oh, up Cover Ridge Canyon. Okay, two questions. The young lady's question and now my question. So, in the Cover Ridge area, why don't you bring that? Yeah, sure, right up there. The fire, as you see, that's closest to it right now. These winds are incredibly fickle. That ground on that fire is some of the steepest, the ruggedest ground that I've been able to work in. And what that does with those canyons that are so many different canyons going in so many different directions, we would expect that fire just to be consistently going with the wind, but because of the ridges, how it drops off into ravines and they turn and everything else, that is actually slowing and pushing the fire down. What we're seeing, thank you. What we're seeing actually is you can see where all the little red dots are, where the largest amount of heat is. Over there, yep. Keep going a little bit more. Okay, that's good right there. That area you can see a lot of the heat is on the back side of the ridge. So right now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying we're out of the woods by any means, but what it is doing is on the back side, that wind is hitting that ridge and then going up and kind of curling it, so it's kind of holding it in check. It is burning, obviously, and it's slowing the progress. Now, if that wind were to come out of a different direction, say this direction, more of like a northwesterly or something, then that's going to push that fire to the north. But now it's sitting right now, it's kind of, we call it keeping it in check, just kind of slowing it down and just kind of holding a pattern. That gives us a couple different options. One, we see that so we can use our forces where it's a little bit more active, where the values at risk are a little bit more threatened, so we've still got people there, but we can start prioritizing other places. But that also gives us some time. So as we take and look at our values at risk, get one safe, then we can reprioritize and then get some people up there. We do have a very experienced division supervisor working with their operations and the hotshot crews in that area, and they are looking for every possible manner in which to put line and to hold it in that place. As far as the evacuation notices, right now, because, well, when we got here on the 13th, we were told by the IMET, or the incident meteorologist, that we were going to have 2 days of high wind, red flag warnings, and then by Sunday, it's going to start tapering down. And we were thinking, great, that's wonderful. So we'd have winds today, and then Sunday, Monday, we could jump on the fire. Well, as we get updated weather reports, we're seeing that those winds are staying up there. We're going to have a little bit of a rise in relative humidity, or RH. Temperatures are going to stay about the same, but the winds are going to decrease from the gale force winds we have out there now to a little bit more temperate, but it's still going to be a continued red flag warning. I am very apprehensive about giving you a date. I would love nothing more than to tell you you are going to be back in your homes on this date. But I cannot sit up here in good faith and tell you that, knowing that the fire could still continue and we don't have it controlled quite yet. So I'm sorry I can't give you a for sure date when everybody's going to be back in. We're doing our due diligence, working incredibly hard. We've got a great plan set up to take care of that situation, but it's just going to take us a little time, and I don't want to put anybody in harm's way before we can adequately believe that that area is secure.
I was just wondering about, in Santaquin, we are seeing flames come above the ridge on Dry Mountain, and that was earlier this afternoon. It looks like it's gone down somewhat, but we don't know the risk. I don't know if the flames are because they're just really high, or if they are in fact going to come over. We're just right there below the mountain, so I was wondering if you could speak to that.
All right, so this is the most recent data that we have. Once again, the fire line is, well, exactly what you see. I'll tell you what we have for plans. Right now, we've got, once again, throughout this entire fire, we've got overhead, whether that be operations, divisions, task force leaders, crews, hotshot crews, engine crews, type 2 crews, scouring that entire place. With that, we always put trigger points for ourselves. So as we build a plan of attack for this particular area, that division soup is doing that very thing. And the trigger points, he's watching the progress of that fire, monitoring at all times. This fire, it does not burn 1 minute without people watching it at some aspect, sometimes at a distance, sometimes very close. But as they hit those trigger points, we take different actions. We redeploy some of our troops. We start calling for the pre-evacuation or possible evacuation of an area. We're in constant communication with the local sheriff and the Utah Highway Patrol. We are monitoring it at all times. As we come up and start really taking care of the northern end, our plan is to redistribute resources if we don't get any more. But currently we have an order right now for 12 more hotshot crews coming in from all over the country. It's just going to take us a day or so to get here. The travel distance is quite large at some times. We do, but to kind of wrap this up, we are watching and we are paying attention to every acre of this fire. Did I answer your question?
No, I was just wondering, are we seeing flames because they're just really tall, but it's still like backing down the mountain and going north? Or are we seeing it because it's up towards the ridge and could possibly come down?
As you can see it, oh, that's Dry Mountain. As you can see it, that fire has started in the valley bottoms, pushing up, and it is gone up to the ridge. What we've got working for us right now is that the winds are wanting to push that thing away from you. So chances are it will back down that hill, but it'll be very slowly. We also have a dozer line being constructed so to protect Santaquin. So if for some reason all of a sudden the winds change unexpectedly, or like I was describing earlier, their winds are so strong that they're pushing into these different ravines and pushing the fire in different directions than what you would think on a flat plain, we have people there. We'll watch it. So, you bet.
My name is Eldon Neves. I'm president of the Lakeshore Livestock Association. We were involved, I had personally 12 head of cattle burned in the Coal Hollow fire, and now we're right on top, that's right on top of us, and we don't have any idea how many are dead there. I think Dave, I appreciate all the people online are doing. The firefighters are great. However, I think Dave just kind of gave us a little shuck and jive there about this thing with the fire. That should have gone out. Having seen the Coal Hollow fire, it went 20 miles in a day and simply blew up. I think it was a stupid thing to do, about the stupidest thing you ask my children, they would tell you, do not let a fire burn if this time of year. No, just let me talk. I'm wrapping it up. I realize you're not, but I think somebody needs to address the fact that that was a stupid decision, and now every one of us are paying for that. And also another thing on the Highway 89, there was nobody right there. It crossed in one little spot by the boys' home.
Do you have a question, sir?
Why in the world? Hey, come on, leave me alone.
I want you to ask
Why didn't we have people on there taking care of that so they didn't jump over. Right now, we've got 120,000 acres because that Coal Hollow fire has joined this other fire. This is,
So let me address what we were doing on the fire, on the both of those fires.
Why didn't they put it out? That's the question. Would you just back off and let me talk here?
You're not here to talk, you're here to ask.
So on the first fire, on the Bald Mountain fire, that one was in the wilderness, and as I said, we got rain the day before. It was a single tree, and we were assessing firefighter risk. That fire sat for a number of days. We were monitoring it. We had people paying attention to it. It didn't move. When Pole Creek started, we focused on that one. We put our firefighters out there. We had 70 people on that fire when it started to move. We didn't just sit back. We were building line. We were trying to assess the right place to put the line, the safe place to put the line, but we didn't just let it burn. The firefighters were in place. They were doing the exact same things these folks are doing. They were building line on top of a ridge. They were building line around it, and they did burn out some of that line. They didn't burn out the whole area. They were just what we call black lining. It was asked what we do to fight fires. We do all of those things. We try to anchor our line in a safe place. We try to build it around the fire. When that fire took off, it outflanked the firefighters. It went around the line and it spotted over the line. And they were trying to chase it. They did their best. We brought in air resources. We were trying to slow that fire down as it outstripped the firefighters. But we were assessing it the whole time. We were building line. We had folks out there. They had to hustle to get out of the way when that thing started moving. So we didn't abandon that one. We didn't think that Bald Mountain would do anything because it sat for days. And as I said, throughout the summer, and I understand this doesn't give anybody any comfort, but we have been successful doing the exact same things throughout the entire forest. And we were using those same techniques. Those firefighters were on the ground. They were using the information they had, doing the best job that they could, assessing what the risk was to them personally, and where they should go to best put these fires out. So we were evaluating that as we went. When they got ready to go, those fires went very quickly, and we were unable to catch up to them.
All righty. All right, I think that's going to wrap up on the questions. Like we said, we have another meeting. We have a couple of things that we want to address before we close. The current and most accurate information, if you'll put that up, that information is the current and updated information, as well as the Utah County Sheriff's Department. One of the things too is Red Cross will be here. They have food and food trucks that's available for the evacuees. And we also talked about donations. The firefighters are logistically supported, so we appreciate everyone in your donations. But if you could maybe utilize those in other locations or just support those firefighters, that would be great. Thank you guys, for coming, and have a great evening.